Hello, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Bite-Sized Cybercrime, the podcast where we discuss cybercrimes and cybersecurity news. We've talked about North Korean threat actors being hired for jobs in different nations to steal data. But how about the reverse? North Korean threat actors hiring people out of different nations to steal data. Well, a new wave of attacks by the North Korean-affiliated Lazarus group targeting European companies in the defense industry have been taking place. This has been called Operation Dream Job, and it's actually been around since 2020, but it sees a new target. It lures in targets working for defense companies with lucrative job offers, hence the name, and tricks them into installing malware via a fake job description that is downloaded as a malicious PDF. This malware is merely a dropper, which is a type of malware that is made to download a different malware. Which seems silly, but the reason droppers exist instead of just downloading the malware directly is for discreteness and antivirus detection avoidance. An antivirus would likely immediately catch malware that is attached to a PDF, or the email service would probably block the email entirely due to its contents. It's either going to be the file size that's an issue, or it's going to be, the malware, especially if this is going to people's corporate emails. Because a lot of corporations will have restrictions around which emails can come in, and will do a basic security scan of the contents of the email to make sure it's not malicious. By using a dropper, which inherently is not super malicious, and some software packages do exist solely to download other packages and are not malicious, it just doesn't really raise any red flags immediately. However, that dropper can grab malware by reaching out to the internet to a server controlled by the hacker and just download it separately. One of the malware packages downloaded is called Scoring MathT, which seems like a nonsensical name to me, to be honest. I don't know if that means something, or if someone just kind of put 3 random words together, which is a good way to generate a long password, by the way. Just don't use that one. That one's taken. But anyways, despite its name not making any sense, it's actually a remote access Trojan, or a rat, that is capable of giving attackers full control of the target's machine to snoop around and do, pretty much anything they want. In this case, that appears to be stealing and exfiltrating data back to the attackers. Typically, something like this would be used to make the computer part of a botnet, and then that botted computer would be used in DDoS attacks, but this really appears to be more of a data exfil operation rather than a botnetting operation, though it could be both at some point in the future as well. I don't believe we've actually seen any botnet-related activities linked to this malware in particular. As I've mentioned before, these are defense companies, so what kind of data are we talking about that's being targeted? Because it could be a lot of things. In this particular part of the Operation Dream Job campaign, the threat actors seem to be after the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, or UAV sector. If you don't know what that means, it's drones. It's combat drones. This attack is aiming to steal proprietary information, manufacturing information, and trade secrets over the manufacturing of drones used for combat. An interesting note, as well, is that the timing of these attacks also coincide with North Korean soldiers joining Russia in support of their military operations in the war against Ukraine. So it is likely that North Korea is not only looking to enhance their very own drone program, which is probably the main motivation, but is also gathering intelligence on drones used by Ukraine's allies in the drones that they are deploying in the conflict, perhaps to better understand how to deal with them. If you have the blueprints, you may be able to find some sort of exploitable weakness that could take them out a lot easier than if you had no idea how they were manufactured. As I said before, Operation Dream Job has actually been around since 2020, luring people in with false promises of jobs they've dreamed of having in high-profile positions. The attack more specifically on the defense sector as it pertains to drones, however, is the new part of this. And it could be a major threat as it helps bolster the North Korean military efforts. So what can you do to avoid this? Unfortunately, job hunting scams are really common, and that makes me sad because, people are looking for jobs, and that's super predatory. You're preying on people who are trying to better themselves in their lives. And that, extra sucks to me. Anyways, if you receive an email telling you about a job offer that seems too good to be true, unfortunately, it probably is, so take it with a grain of salt. especially if it includes downloads that shouldn't be there. I've never really received a job offer where I'm required to download a PDF. If I'm getting emailed about it, or if I'm seeing it on LinkedIn or Monster or Indeed, they just kind of have the description on the website. I don't need to download anything special to look at it, so that's odd. Don't do that. Another good thing to check is something like the email name. Make sure it's actually coming from the company that it says it is, because a lot of times attackers will use pretty similar emails to disguise where it's actually coming from. Thank you to Info Security Magazine, the Hacker News, the Register, and Security Affairs for information on this attack and some of the background as to why this may be happening on the defense sector at the moment. And of course, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Bite Size Cybercrime, and until next time, stay secure.